Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Cruz and welcome back to another video. This is a special one. I've been waiting patiently to do this video. Today, I'm finally gonna reveal the pedal board. Let's get it. Before we get started, please do all the things that help this channel grow. Like this video, comment, and subscribe below. Be sure to hit the bell icon so you get an alert every single time I upload a video. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, here it is in all its glory. You're going to see me looking down a lot because the pedal board is obviously at my feet. I'm very excited about this one. Very, very excited. I actually debated, believe it or not, on not releasing this video, or not recording it, I should say, until early next year, because since I just made a pedal board run through, it felt like a little weird that I would do it again, and so it's technically having a 2021 pedal board run through again. But I think we're late enough in the year where I can technically call it my 2022 board. Not to mention, I'm just impatient. I wanted to show you guys this for a while. It's actually been ready for a long time, but I've been messing with tone still tweaking some things here or there. You know, I'm getting gear in and out of here all of the time, so I'm always constantly double checking, did I make the right decisions, things like that. You know, using other guitars with this rig to make sure that I can get good sounds with all of my guitars, and that hasn't been easy. Needless to say, I think it's not a finished process, but I think I've gotten to a point where I'm ready to, at the very least, showcase the pedal board, showcase some of the tones that I'm getting from it, and explain a little bit of how I've come up with this whole rig. If you're not privy to how this all started for me, I'm gonna link the video right up here. This started back over the summer when I decided to take my pedal board apart, if nothing else for the sake of like just wanting to see what else was out there. I felt like I had become, I don't know, stagnant. It was a little stale for me. The pedal board wasn't inspiring me anymore, even though it sounded really good in my opinion. I don't know, I wasn't playing guitar nearly as much. But since I've been exploring tones and putting this pedal board together, I have probably put more hours into the guitar than I've put in a really, really long time. So probably the only issue that I had was the power supply. It was quite scary fitting it in. I personally use the True Tone One Spot Pro CS12, relatively decent sized power supply, and it just barely fit underneath this board, to the point where I had to remove the center support bracket under this pedal board, which is removable, by the way. Not sure if they do that on purpose for the sake of fitting certain power supplies, but it certainly came in handy in this situation. I can plug my input and output right into that slot right there, and I can also reach the power supply right from that opening, so it worked out really, really great. I do want to play some stuff for you so you can hear them in action, so I'm going to try my best to move rather quickly, but still give you a lot of information. As you can see, some stuff did stay from my previous rig, but for the most part, it's a brand new setup for me, which I'm very excited about. The first pedal we start with is the Polytune Mini by TC Electronics. I'll actually link the buffer video that I made. I was using that pedal as my buffer. It has the Bonafide buffer in it, so I am using it as an always on. I think that's the only way you can keep the buffer on as well, and it tunes pretty well. I actually haven't tuned my guitar just yet, so I'm going to check my tuning really quickly. Out of the Polytune Mini, we go into the Pitchfork by Electro Harmonics. This is a brand new pedal for me. This is one of those pedals that I talked about in the past in my videos where I never really vibe with them, and I was always afraid to incorporate them into my rig personally because, well, it just wasn't a pedal that I really vibed with. I mean, that's just the plain simple fact. But because I'm covering so many songs when I play praise and worship that incorporate this pedal, it was important that I at least gave it a try. And out of all of the POG style pedals that were out there, I feel like this one suited my needs personally the most. Let me just quickly show you what that would sound like. I'm going to throw on some reverbs and delays and give you some swells. So as you can hear, the Pitchfork is acting almost like this high pitch, I don't know, MIDI type of sound where it doesn't quite sound like a guitar. It's very angelic sounding, and I like that. So I'm using it pretty subtly. I'm not really using it for anything else but that, but it does track very well if you were going to use it for straight up octave stuff, which I think is really, really nice. So I'll play it that way as well. Let's move on. From there we go into the compressor. I'll link the full video where I basically give how I use this. This is another pedal that I'm constantly tinkering with because there's so many options in it. This is the Jackson Audio Bloom. This is version 1, so I don't have it connected via MIDI at all. I'm currently only using the left side and the middle side, which is the compression side and then the EQ. The Bloom is definitely a really cool option, but it's a little too aggressive for my taste personally. I think maybe if I were using a Strat with this setup, I would probably turn the Bloom on to just beef up those single coils a little bit. But the way that I have the rig set up right now, I feel like I'm pretty beefed up already, and I don't want to push my signal any more than I have to. So I think it sounds very, very good as is. In fact, I've already have it on, so let me just give you a taste of what that sounds like. Now, if I did want to beef up the signal, like I said, just a little bit, or just maybe go towards the edge of breakup more so than an absolutely clean like I have it right now, then I can always turn that Bloom on, which is gonna, I have it relatively low, so it'll be more in the green setting when I do push the signal. Moving on, we go to the Broken Arrow by Jackson Audio. This one is a MIDI pedal, and I will explain very briefly how I'm using it, but I do plan on going into detail on how I set all of this up via MIDI, so we'll get into that once I review the Morningstar MC6. But for now, the Broken Arrow is doing amazing. I'll link right up here my video on that as well, where I break down my settings. It's pretty much the same here or there. I still tinker with it to get the right, just to dial in the right tones, especially when I switch up guitars, but it's been working phenomenally. So I'm going to show you all of my stages on how I use this thing. So my first stage drive sounds like this. So of course that is the blue setting at 25% of the gain that I currently have set. The second stage gain is the magenta set at 50%, and I'll show you what that sounds like. And I typically at this point jump to my bridge pickup. Moving on to my third stage gain, this is the green setting set at 50% of the gain that I have set. Then we have my solo sound that takes the green setting up to 75% and turns on the blue boost. So as you can hear, the Broken Arrow is seriously covering pretty much everything I would ever need in an overdrive, or multiple overdrives even. Part of the reason why I was able to make this rig so much smaller than my last rig, and then even incorporate pedals that or sounds that I never really had before, was because of this pedal right here. This is probably the pedal that changed the game for me when coming up with this pedal board. From the Broken Arrow, we go into the Dunlop Volume Mini pedal. I kept this one, as you guys know. I was debating on going back to a full-size volume pedal, but when you're building a pedal board this size, you have to take into consideration the real estate, right? Having a full-size volume pedal on here would have definitely forced me to eliminate one, maybe even two of the pedals that are on here right now, and I didn't want to go that route. Plus, this volume pedal feels and actually sounds really, really great, so there was no need to switch it out. It was more so just under my feet, the feeling of having a full-size volume pedal that I missed, but I definitely wasn't willing to sacrifice real estate to get that full-size volume pedal back onto my board. So maybe a bigger board in the future, but for now, this one's working just great. After that, we go into the Walrus Audio Julia. I'll link my video on that pedal as well right up here. This has been a game changer for me as well. This is a great pedal. This is not a pedal much like the Pitchfork that I use a whole lot of. As I mentioned in that video, I don't vibe with these sounds totally too much. It's not the sounds that I gravitate towards when I'm tinkering or writing music, but it's so cool to have them at my disposal. And more importantly, now that I have them, I'm hearing all the sounds that I wasn't incorporating when I was covering praise and worship music that's out there today, because this pedal, believe it or not, ends up on a lot of those records and those sounds. So I was missing out for sure, and now that I have it in my possession, I'm almost like, why did I never have it? So I'll show you a little bit of what that sounds like. I'll throw on some reverb. That's one of those guitar parts where if you know it, you know it. And it was, again, one of those pieces of music or one of those sounds that I was missing for so long. So I'm really happy to have that pedal in my possession now. After that, we scoot back over to the right and we go into a pedal that remained on my pedal board, which is the Digitech JamMan Solo XT. This is one of those pedals that I knew for sure was going to stay with me because of how much I've incorporated it into my everyday use now. I'll link an old video right up here where I go over how I use this pedal. I essentially decided to record pads in all major keys and I uploaded them into this pedal via a micro SD card. Now I have the ability to play those pads as backing tracks into my rig. So I'll show you a little bit of how that works. From there, we go out into the HX Stomp. Keeping the HX Stomp actually wasn't always the game plan. I decided when I took my pedal board apart that I would explore different tones, that I would explore different options. I decided before I jump the gun and do anything crazy, I was going to jump back into my old settings on the HX Stomp. And to be honest with you, I was missing out on a whole lot with this pedal. I couldn't believe that I was able to do so much more with it than I had ever done before. Simply by just moving a few things around. So I'm currently using the HX Stomp for a whole lot here. I have a slight noise gate at the input of the HX Stomp. I'm going into the AC Fawn normal, which is my amp. I'm then using an IR by Live Ready Sound. I then go into a 10-band EQ. Then I go into delays and reverb. My main delay at the moment is the transistor tape delay within the HX Stomp. I then go into my dual delays, like I said, which is still accessible to me. So here's the dual delay. The beauty about having both delays now is that I have access to turn each of them on and off. So here's them stacked together. From there we go into reverbs, and this time I'm using 2 reverbs in this preset. I couldn't really decide which one I liked more, the dynamic reverb or my original glitz reverb setting, so I decided to keep them both. I had the dynamic reverb on as an always on, but on a short trail, so I'll show you what that sounds like on its own. From there, we then go into the glitz reverb, which is still my main reverb at the moment. And here's the glitz by itself. But as I mentioned, I'm actually using them together. So in this particular case, I do always stack them. The good thing is I can always turn the glitz reverb off if I'm ever playing something a little more upbeat and need less reverb, and then put the glitz reverb back on when I'm playing more ambient style music or more of my everyday thing that I do on this channel. Now here's both of them stacked together. So as you can see, the way I've set my HX Stomp up now, the possibilities are endless, and it's all within the same preset. I don't have to jump presets to incorporate more delays or reverb. So that's also because the HX Stomp opened up its ability to add more blocks within a preset. That doesn't really matter when you're working with a limited amount of the CPU or whatever they call it, the limitations of actually being able to use certain sounds within a preset. So, but I was surprised on how much I had left by just removing one of the amps. As before, I used to have 2 amps in one, and I'll link the video right up here where I go over that. In fact, forget that video. I'll just link the entire series of me breaking down my HX Stomp stuff, and within that series you can see where I break down the amps. Now as far as snapshots, I'm still doing that, and they pretty much have stayed exactly the same, but for the sake of showing you my rig, I'll play through them very quickly. So this is snapshot 1, which you've been hearing the whole time. But let's check out snapshot 2. Snapshot 2 essentially incorporates the dual delay and just increases reverb ambience a little bit more from the glitz reverb. So you're going to hear a little more ambience within the sound, and I think it's just very pretty, especially for slower paced ambient songs. Now snapshot 3. Snapshot 3 is a totally different monster altogether. This boosts up the delays and reverb quite a bit, to the point where I do not use this particular snapshot for like playing notes in particular. I typically only use them for swells. I gave you a taste of what they sounded like when I put the Pitchfork on. So I'm going to do a couple of swells without the Pitchfork, and then I'll put the Pitchfork on so you can hear how now I incorporate that for some of that more top end kind of pretty thing that happens. From the HX Stomp, I go back into the patch bay and out into recording land or soundboard, whatever it is I'm doing at that moment. Obviously skipped over something that I've been using this whole time that's, I would probably say, the heartbeat of this entire rig. Now I will say this, if it wasn't for the Broken Arrow, I don't think I would have even entertained going this route. So I have to give credit to Jackson Audio and the Broken Arrow for giving me this idea, because it definitely changed the game for me. I have now incorporated the Morningstar MC6. And this little aux box that you see next to it with the labels on it, it's an aux 3 by Analog Endeavors, and all of that does is that it connects to the Morningstar MC6 and essentially turns it from an MC6 to an MC9, giving me now 9 accessible foot switches to be able to step on at any given moment. The MC6 gives you 3 forms of connection. It allows me to connect via a 5-pin Midi, and then it has 2 Omni ports. Now how I set this up MIDI is for a different video, and I promise that video will come. And though you've been seeing me step on it, I'll now quickly point out some of the changes that it makes, and by looking at the entire pedal board you'll be able to see some of the lights flashing on and off, so you can get more of an idea of how this all works. So switch A is my clean sound. I kind of wanted to use this much like I did use a loop switcher, though you can toggle stuff on and off via the MC6. It just kind of felt more like a stomp switch thing, and I didn't want to do that like in a stomp mode. I wanted it to function like I press a button and a bunch of stuff can happen, right? So the clean basically will always turn off the Broken Arrow and its boost, because the boost operates independently. I'll turn on my solo. My solo sound immediately turns on 75% of the green setting and the boost, the blue boost on the Broken Arrow, and watch the clean, it'll turn it right off as soon as I press the switch. Same thing with any gain. Let's just say I randomly went to gain 2. The magenta, it'll turn that off as well. So it'll always send me back into clean mode for my guitar. Switch B is my gain 1, which is the blue setting on the Broken Arrow. Switch C is the magenta setting, which is gain 2. Then we jump over to the aux switch, which this switch right here is gain 3. That turns on the green setting. And then up here, my solo. The middle switch actually toggles on and off my dual delay. So it's really hard to see on the HX Stomp. Maybe if I went to the second page here. So I'm not sure if you can entirely see the HX Stomp there, but it's on the dual delay setting, and you can see that the aux switch is toggling it on and off there. So in that particular case, I actually do have that switch on toggle mode so that I can turn it on and off at my convenience. Then we jump up to the top row of the MC6. I used to use an aux switch connected to the HX Stomp to do my snapshots to go up and down, but I no longer need that. I do it via MIDI via the MC6. So switch E and F will snap me up and down. So F will go up, snapshot 2, snapshot 3, and then E will go down, snapshot 2, snapshot 1. I can go straight to 3, back up to 1, so on and so forth. So it's very, very convenient. And then the last switch on here is switch D. This is the tempo switch. If I press on switch D, it takes me to a BPM page, right? A MIDI clock BPM page, and it tells me the BPM that I'm currently in, which is 72. If I wanted to change that, I can either start tapping or I can go to page 2 and literally dial in the exact BPM of my choice. So I can go up to 75 BPMs, 80 BPMs, back down if I wanted to 72 BPM, whatever I feel like doing, and then exit out of there. And now my tempo is set on the HX Stomp. But let's just say I'm not playing to a click track, I'm not in the studio, and I just need a tap tempo situation. Well, that's why I created Bank 2. By pressing both B and C, it'll bank me up to Bank 2, and now that tempo switch turns into a tap tempo switch, and it allows me to change my tempo via tap tempo there. Now apparently the newest firmware update 3.9 will actually display the BPM, which will be very, very nice and convenient, give me a little more confidence on what I'm actually doing. So that's going to be a really great addition to this whole rig once I update the firmware on the MC6. The other thing that I have the MC6 doing upon entry of certain banks is actually sending a PC message change to the HX Stomp to take me to a specific preset. So when I'm playing my Telecaster, Bank 1 will always take me to my Telecaster. And I'll show you a quick example. I'm going to change the preset on the HX Stomp, and it's got the stock 80s craze on 1B. I'm going to go to, for example, Bank 2 on the HX Stomp, which is my tap tempo bank, and boom, immediately switched it back to my Cruz Tele sound, which is now the new settings that I've been showing you this whole time. So this is pretty much it, a whole lot of information. Clearly, I need to go into detail on some more of these pedals here. I want to make a full video on how I'm using the Pitchfork. I definitely need to make a full video, maybe even a few on the MC6 and how I've got it set up via MIDI. I just need a little more time to mess with it to try to get the most out of it for this particular setup. But for the most part, I'm very, very happy. As you can see, it's so super versatile for me. I can do MIDI stuff, I can do click track stuff, or I can still operate like a regular guitarist in stomp switch mode and still get all of the tones that I normally would get out of this rig. If you have questions about this rig, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If I get enough questions or enough of the same question, I may just do like an update FAQ type of video for this particular pedal board. But I'm so excited about it. It's so sleek, so small, well put together. I'm very happy with the layout. I'm very happy with even the cabling. Everything came out pretty cool, and it's exciting. Please don't forget to do all of the things that help this channel grow. Like this video, comment, and subscribe below. Hit the bell notification icon so you get an alert every single time I upload a video. If you look in the description box below, I do have some affiliate links that if you press on will kick back and help this channel out just a little bit. There's also a link which you can press on and donate directly to this channel if you choose to do so. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and until next week.